Hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Mostly Accurate, the show where chaos meets mom life. Caffeine is a food group, and standards are somewhere between everyone's fed and nobody's on fire. We are officially like deep into spooky season, and I I freaking love it. This week has been kind of a ride. My child has been using couch cushions as parkour equipment. The dog is eating whatever my son drops on the floor. And I started referring to cold coffee as iced because that's just branding right there. If you think my week sounds chaotic, wait until you hear today's lineup. First, we're going to head to Indiana, where a man reported his mom missing, only for the police to find a part of a spinal cord burned in his backyard in a fire pit. Yeah, because apparently family drama now comes with a side of forensic evidence, I guess. And then after that, we are going to take a sharp left into something a little more supernatural. The true story behind Netflix's new show, True Haunting, where a college dorm room becomes kind of like ground zero for some seriously disturbed ghost activity. And this also kind of involves like a centuries old beef. So that'll be fun. So, whether you're dealing with toddlers, trauma, or Tommy the Ghost, tonight's theme is the same: things that refuse to rest. So, this is mostly accurate. Let's get into it. Hey guys. So, current events. Today's pretty dark. Yeah. Wow. This one. Okay. So, we're going to head to Clinton, Indiana, where a human spinal cord, yep, said that right, was found in a backyard burn pit. This gruesome discovery led police straight to a 20-year-old man accused of killing his own mother. The man in question, his name is Nicholas Thomas Yates. And in one of those like wild, true crime plot twist, I guess you would say, that makes you want to throw your phone across the room. He's the one who reported his mother missing in the first place. His mother's name is Cheryl Yates. At first glance, this kind of sounds like a move that somebody who was like worried would make. So, like a responsible son calling the police, reporting his mom missing and everything. Except the story that he gave the police kind of started to sound like, I don't know, less than the truth and more like some kind of bullshit that he made in a creative writing class exercise or something, and he thought he could get away with it. So, what did Thomas actually do here? He told investigators that he'd been trying to call his mom for just like days on end. And then all of a sudden he like switches up his story suddenly and says, okay, never mind. Her phone was like left at home. So right there, you got all these inconsistencies. And then, the police are like, okay, well, let me see the phone, like easy peasy. And then he's like, oh, yeah, that's right. I sold the phone. So you're calling your mom's phone because she's missing. And then, she's gone for 2 days and you're like, you know what? I'm just going to sell the phone, because apparently your mom goes missing and the logical next step is to hit like Facebook Marketplace. But I don't know. That's just me. I just don't think that makes any sense, but neither did the police. So deputies arrive at Yates's house, Davis Street in Indiana, and they notice like more inconsistencies. So Nick said that his mom was gone, but her purse, her phone, her wallet, all that was still there. Her clothes, her ID, though, like, so that's missing. That would be suspicious even without like the whole backyard bone pile burn pit situation. But like if she's gonna leave on her own, why would she leave her purse and her phone and her wallet, but like only take her clothes? Like I don't know any like kidnapper who's like, oh my God, don't forget your Louis Vuittons. Like ridiculous, but whatever. So detectives noticed Nicholas seemed like oddly calm when he told them that his mom Cheryl was missing. And then he was like, you know what? She might have gotten a new phone, but it had the same number. Like that's, I guess, his explanation for him continuing to call his mom after she disappeared because, he had the phone record stating that he was calling her and he was worried. But if you're continuing to call somebody and the phone is in the house, you're going to hear the phone or you're going to hear the vibrate. I don't know. maybe it was on silent, whatever. So then slowly, like, everything kind of starts to unravel because he's just like not the not the genius that he thought he was. So investigators like talk to his mom's boss, who said she left work on October 3rd. And it was just like kind of a tense day for her. She told that her coworker that she was like super mad that she was like, I'm gonna kill him, but like, I don't know. Is that something that she just said out of frustration? You're like, I could just kill him. Like, I don't know. That could have been it. I really don't think that this woman intended on murdering her son. But then again, who thought her son would end up murdering her? But anyway, so she's like referring to her son, like how she's so frustrated with him. And apparently they've been like fighting about like money, rent, and household bills because nothing says family bonding like financial resentment and a shared phone plan. So meanwhile, Nicholas wasn't exactly like acting like a frantic man to find his missing mom. So witnesses told police that he had been like cleaning constantly that weekend, which is obviously really weird. If you guys look at the article, I have it linked in the show notes, the source I used. He just does not look like a clean boy. No, that he looks like a sloppy kid, and obviously did some sloppy work here with this murder of his. Anyway, he goes on this like cleaning spree that doesn't really like follow through with like, my mom's missing. Let me just clean the house. Like, doesn't make sense. Basically, it looks like he's covering something up. So he also reportedly spent time in the attic and made like a few random purchases around town around the time of when this situation happened, October 3rd, and was caught burning papers in his backyard. And when police asked like what he was burning, Nicholas said they were DCS documents. So like Department of Child Services paperwork that wasn't supposed to be like in his possession, just casual government document disposal while your mom's nowhere to be found, but whatever. Then the officers look into the burn pile and things took like a horrifying turn. So beneath the ashes, they found bones. And among those bones was like a section that unmistakably was a human spinal cord column. Messed up. Just even saying that is like really messed up. But that's when Nicholas's story kind of cracked, like all the things kind of spilled out. According to court documents, he told investigators that on October 3rd, he and his mom got into like a superheated argument that escalated into violence. He claimed that he struck her in the throat, which caused her to like fall and hit her head on both like a metal bed frame and a wooden chest. And instead of calling 911, he allegedly placed her body in a wooden box, left it overnight, and then like the next day dragged it outside and burned it. Yeah, that's not like heat of the moment stuff. That's like days of planning, terrible decision making, and like zero humanity. But during this search, police also found Cheryl's pill organizer last marked on, you guessed it, October 3rd, the night she was last seen alive. So the Vermilion County Coroner's Office, isn't Vermilion like a Pokemon city? I don't know why I just thought of that. Okay, back to the story. So coroner's office is still working to like officially confirm the remains. And this process could take weeks, but Nicholas has already been charged with murder at this point and is being held at the county jail. His trial is set for February 26th. So it's kind of a case that makes you like shake your head and think some people can't keep their lies straight for 24 hours, let alone like, I don't know, plan a crime scene. I swear, if true crime has taught us anything, is that murders are like terrible planners. If your story has more revisions than a group project at 2 a.m., it's not working. Selling your mom's phone, that's not a cover up. That's like a neon sign flashing, arrest me. Like, idiot. I just can't with some people. And look, I don't know what's going on in that house, but the way that like everything unfolded feels kind of like every red flag was waving in unison at this point. Like missing mom, a nervous son, a burn pit that holds more evidence than a Dateline episode. I can't believe like this is like a real life story. And again, it's in the Midwest. What is going on, Midwest? Like get some sunshine. I don't know. Go for a run or go for a walk. Like get your mind right. Too many crazy people. Always look out for yourself. Okay. So now after that level of darkness, we're going to pivot, but not like entirely away from creepy because if you thought finding a spinal cord in your backyard was a nightmare, wait until you hear about a haunting that made a whole college dorm lose sleep and their sanity. All right. Now that we've climbed out of the burn pit, emotionally at least, let's talk about a haunting that's way more paranormal, but somehow just as unsettling. Netflix just dropped a new series called True Haunting. It dives into the bizarre real life experience of a man named Chris, a totally normal college student in the 1980s who accidentally became, I don't know, the star of his own horror movie. So that's fun. Great setup. So True Haunting has two different true paranormal stories in it. Chris's story is the first, which takes up 3 episodes. So basically what happens is it just tells the story of Chris and his experience at a college in upstate New York called Geneseo. I never heard of this school before, but apparently it's like super prestigious and just like really smart kids go there. So good for you guys. But anyway, so it's like your average college town, classes, dorms, cafeteria food, maybe like one haunted building. I don't know, like your usual college campus, usual old upstate New York college campus, I guess you would say. And then things kind of kicked off after Chris and his friends attended a lecture by Ed and Lorraine Warren. Yes, these are the same paranormal power couple who inspired movies like The Conjuring. So this couple, these paranormal investigators, they come and visit their campus. And I guess it was like normal for their college campus to have random visitors come and lecture on different topics. And I guess like in the 80s, during this time, paranormal and like ghost investigations were super big in the media and like entertainment and all this stuff. So Ed and Lorraine, if you watch the movie The Conjuring, that was like that couple that did the seances and everything. That's never a really like good start to your story. Like no one ever says after the demonologist came to campus, things were totally fine. So Chris's story just starts ramping up. So normal college guy, he goes to his dorm room and he just like starts experiencing like some weird things. Like he keeps hearing like voices in his head and somebody going, Chris, Chris, Chris. Creepy as that is, that it knows your name. And then not long after, this demon is like talking to him, or at least he can hear him talking to him, like more weird stuff just keeps happening in Chris's dorm. So this is called Eerie Hall, ironically enough. So like doors are slamming, cold spots, voices, like the kind of stuff that makes you question whether, like you need a priest or better insulation. I don't know. So he's experiencing this stuff and he actually like has a roommate at the time. So and this is a close friend of his. Like they're rooming, they're like living together for like, I don't know, a couple months, however many weeks into the semester. And then so he realizes one night that like he's woken up one night and there's a tape recorder running. He just doesn't understand like why this tape recorder is running. So like his roommate's like, dude, Chris, turn off the tape recorder. And so like he goes and turns it off and then he goes back to bed. All of a sudden, the tape recorder is running again. He's like, what the hell? Like they're both like super freaked out. They're like, you just turned that off, I thought. And Chris goes back out of his so they had like a bunk bed kind of type situation because they wanted more room for activities, which I thought was like super genius, like to like add that little note into their story because like it was totally Step Brothers before Step Brothers. But anyway, so he climbs down from his like bunk bed thing and he turns it off again. And then it literally just turns on again. Like Chris unplugged it, like all the cords, like everything, and it just turns on again. And then there's something that he couldn't explain at that point, and his roommate saw something that Chris was seeing and experiencing. And then the next day, roommate packed his stuff and he left. He just left. So that is pretty crazy. So fast forward, he tells one of his other close friends like what's happening to him. And so his friend, like back then in the 80s, they also like really explained like you don't talk about your mental health because I don't know, maybe people will think you're crazy. I don't know. I don't know what was going on in the 80s. Lots of shame, it sounds like. But like Chris doesn't want anyone to really know about this. So he confides in one of his close friends who is also like a photographer, which turned out to be like really cool because, like ghosts and photos and paranormal stuff. They're like, all right, if we're going to talk about this, we need like a code name. Like we can't be talking about ghosts because people are going to think we're crazy, right? So he's like, well, just think of a name. What do you want to call this thing? And he decides, like, suddenly comes up with this name and it's Tommy. So they're like, going forward, they're like, okay, the ghost name is Tommy. So how are we going to get rid of Tommy? What are we going to do about Tommy? And then they just get to a point where like Chris is just not sleeping. He's like super scared. Like he keeps having like these weird things happening to him. So naturally, they brought a priest in to bless the room, which for a minute, it seemed like everything was like super quiet. Like he did his like priest thing and, the power of Christ compels you. And they supposedly got rid of the ghost. And like I said, everything was like super quiet and I was fine until it wasn't. So things actually got like really worse from there. A horror sequel worse. The so-called attacks that were like started and targeting Chris specifically, they didn't stop. They actually moved down the hall. So it actually wasn't Chris's dorm room that was haunted. It was Chris that it wanted, but it had just moved down the line. One of Chris's friends, they were all like hanging out in Chris's room now that it was like all safe and blessed. And she goes to her room and all of a sudden, like they realize like, wow, she's been gone like a while. She's been gone a long time. So Chris and his buddy go and investigate and they find her just completely like paralyzed in fear on the floor. They thought she was dead. Like they thought she passed out. She was like lifeless. And then all of a sudden, she comes to when they're like, are you okay? Are you okay? Wake up. And she explains to them that she had this crazy experience and she could just hear this thing calling Chris's name in her head. So again, because the ghost really likes Chris, he was the ghost's favorite. So everyone's all freaked out about this attack, but it didn't stop there. So Chris was in the shower one day in the bathrooms, like across from his dorm room, and then suddenly he felt like this sharp pain, so much so that it knocked him out cold. He was just, taking a shower, and the next thing you know, he's coming to on the shower floor and he looks in the mirror and he sees three like deep scratches on his back, like claw marks, basically, like bloody claw marks across his skin. Like this is scary. This is real. He's freaked out. I mean, if that were me, I would just simply transfer, like immediately. New major, new school, new zip code, like bye. I'm not playing with some demonic forces at this point who are totally going to scratch up my body. No, thank you. So Chris freaks out. Obviously, naturally. And he goes home and tells his dad, who, by the way, his dad is a science teacher. So this is a very like rational human who it's like weird for Chris to tell his dad this story because his dad's going to be like, sure, son, ghosts, I suppose the cafeteria is cursed too, So Chris doesn't know what to do, but to his credit, instead of like writing his son off, Chris's dad actually hears him out and he's like, I'm going to come sleep at the dorm. Everything will be fine. So 3 a.m. His dad wakes up like freezing cold and he's like in pain. Like he feels like pain on his body, but he can't figure out where this pain is coming from. Like there's no marks, there's no injuries, just like this deep gutted feeling. And I don't know, he says he feels just like dread. And he ends up laying awake, like staying up all night and just like sitting in the chair and just staring into the dark, like a man who's rethinking his life choices, basically. So the next morning, he doesn't really know what to do because Chris is like, how was everything? And his dad was like, yeah, it was fine. And clearly it was not fine. So Chris's dad is like, why don't we go for a jog? It's a great way to clear our heads. I totally agree with this. Going for a walk or for a jog. Clear your heads. Don't do murders. Okay, so they're jogging and they randomly like come across this like old plaque. And like I said, this is like in upstate New Yorkish area. This is where a lot of like the Revolutionary War soldiers had like it was like a battlefield. So they find this old plaque and there's a name on it. Like it's just so random that they like all of a sudden come across this plaque. Like Chris jogs this route all the time. Chris is like super into jogging and the name on the plaque says Parker Boyd or something like that. So at this point, they just want to deep dive. They want to figure out, what's going on at Erie Hall. Like they want to research, was there ever any death? Was there suicide? Like any kind of like tragic link to the area. So they start looking into those names on the plaque and they come up with Michael Parker and Lieutenant Thomas Boyd. Turns out it wasn't just a coincidence. So Lieutenant Thomas Boyd, one of the men honored on the plaque, had been captured during the Revolutionary War. He was tortured, killed, and it was like in one of the most brutal, unimaginable ways to die. So what ended up happening to him when he was captured, they made an incision on his abdomen. His intestines were tied to a tree. His tongue and ears were cut off. And yeah, the tree where it happened, about a mile from the Geneseo campus, is the same area where Chris jogged nearly every single morning. And he actually jogged past that specific tree every single time. So here's what's creepy. Chris has named this ghost Tommy, if you don't remember, as in Lieutenant Thomas Boyd. What the actual F, right? So yeah, that's not a coincidence. That's like a full body chill moment. Like he already like knew the ghost's name. So Chris decides he's had enough of just like, I don't know, being haunted. And he's just sick of doing the main character in this ghost story. And he walks out to the exact tree that Thomas Boyd's death occurred. And he's like, Tommy, show yourself. And of course, being a ghost who obviously wants to be known, Tommy shows himself. Chris swears that he sees like a bloody, mutilated soldier just like standing there. And instead of running, which, what the rest of us would obviously do, Chris tries to help the ghost move on, which I guess that's like really sweet natured of him to do. So he tells him, whatever you did in your past can be forgiven. And he counts to 10. He looks around and the spirit is gone. Like, that's it. That's all it took. All he had to do is just be like, yo, Tommy, get out here. I need to talk to you. And then just be like, you're forgiven. I'm going to count to 10. When I turn around, you better be gone. Like, that's literally all it took. Well, whatever. I mean, okay. So let's recap. Some people can't get ghosts out of their house or like get their ghosts to stop hiding the remote. And this guy is out here giving like a full blown therapy session to like an 18th century war spirit. I don't know. That's just bizarre to me. So let's fast forward. Here's like a really wild part though of this story. Nearly 30 years pass. Chris and his family just don't talk about what happened during that semester. And it obviously affected Chris. It affected his classmates. Like it affected a lot of people, what happened. And then that's like decades of like emotional repression and ghost induced silence. So they don't talk about it. And then decades later, Chris's mom unexpectedly like finds this like book of like family ancestry stories and she shares it with Chris's dad. Well, this is what turns everything upside down and just kind of blows my mind. So it turns out Chris's distant relatives were the ones who actually discovered Lieutenant Thomas Boyd's mutilated body back in the 1700s. Like, what? Like, What on earth? The question becomes like, was Chris chosen? Did the ghost somehow know he was like some weird ancestral, like connection, pulling them together across like all these like centuries and time? And what makes like the true haunting so fascinating is not just about like bumps in the night or like mysterious scratches. It's about whether like things that haunt us are random or like was it like written in his DNA, like, for this to happen. I don't know. It was, like, super spooky, that part. Like, if you found out my long lost relatives had a beef with a ghost, I'd be filing, like, I don't know, some generational restraining order. But Chris, no. Chris made peace with it, which honestly might make him the bravest college kid that ever lived. All right, let's dial it back from some spookiness and let's talk about some actual chaos that's happening in my life. I guess I wouldn't say it's actually like too much chaos this week. This week has been sort of chill. First off, my son got his 1 year vaccines. Yes, cue the tears and the screaming. It was terrible. Like I felt, oh my gosh, I felt so bad for him. I always feel so bad for him when he has to get any type of shots, but these ones hit him hard. Like I don't know why they what why are there so many vaccines? Like I just want to make sure he's okay and keep him on schedule. But, like now he doesn't feel good. Now he's sick and I know it's his immune system like working on building immunity and all that, but it's just like, come on, guys. It's like, okay, happy 1 year milestone, happy birthday, and now you're going to get sick. It stinks for him and it's still going on. So it's been over a week now and it's just constant draining and snot rockets everywhere. And then of course he just, when he doesn't feel good, when any of your babies don't feel good, it's like all they want to do is just cling to you and be held and be hugged. And I'm doing the best I can with just like constantly just carrying him and holding him. And he's just doing the best he can not to just sneeze all over my body. I feel like I caught a little bit of something too from him, or I don't know. I don't know what it is, but we're all kind of a mess mess this week, but I'm feeling much better. I think he is also. So, yay for that. Meanwhile, I have been doing my own little like, I don't know, like little fun experiment this week, which is fasting. Well, it's not just this week. It's actually been a couple weeks now. I'm really just like I want to lose those last 8 pounds, like 8 to 10 pounds. So I've been doing intermittent fasting and just focusing on a lot of protein. It's actually working. I have managed to be down 3 pounds in the like last week and a half, which that's great. Like if I can keep up with this, like I'm super pumped about that. So, and the hunger isn't like terrible. I feel like when you're intermittent fasting, it's kind of like it sucks like the first couple days, but then your body just gets used to it. And luckily, I drink black coffee, so it doesn't break my fast in the morning. And then I'm doing like the 16 and 8. So I'll fast for 16 hours and then I have an 8-hour eating window. I don't know if you guys have ever looked into intermittent inter man, I don't know why that word is so hard for me. Intermittent fasting. Got it. Nailed it. But yeah, so that is when you have the 16 hours. I know it sounds like a long time, but it's really not if you think about it. Because if you finish your last meal by 7 p.m. and then you just have like water for the rest of the night, and then you skip breakfast or just have a late breakfast and start your food window at 11 a.m. It really wasn't that difficult because, like, I mean, I get to work, I'm doing emails, and next thing you know, it's 11 o'clock. So I don't know. It works for me. It might not work for other people, but it works for me. So we're going to see how that goes over the next couple months. I would just like to hit my goal because I have a lot of cute, like fall and winterish pants that I want to fit back into. So hopefully I can do that in time. If not, it's okay. I'm not worried. I can just buy new pants. And then on the other topic that's going on this week, I am slowly on the tail end of just being done breastfeeding, I think. At least we're cutting down. We're cutting down significantly, and my supply has cut down significantly. So this is gonna just be, I don't know, it's gonna be like a big step. I mean, my freezer is like still full, but it doesn't look like an extra small milk factory in there anymore. My supply is slowly dwindling down, but that's okay. I think I'm gonna just wait until he gets through this week with, still not feeling good, because I feel like the breast milk has obviously magic in it and it'll probably help him recover and build immunity a little bit quicker. But yeah, we've successfully got the milk on a good level at first. It gave him like a really bad stomach ache and then like a rash and everything. I felt so bad for him and I was like, "Oh my god, is this the milk or is this something else?" And because I feel like everything happened on his 1 year. You get your vaccines, they're like, switch to this and all this. But anyway, yeah, so we're good on milk now. My baby's growing up and now I have to start weaning. And not that I have to, but it's okay. I'm ready to start weaning and we'll be ready to close this chapter and move on to some new exciting things. It's like parenthood is a weird mix of, I don't know, triumph and chaos. One minute we're celebrating small victories like intermittent fasting actually working and not leaking through your shirt. And the next we're Googling how many fevers are normal after vaccines. But, small wins. If your kid doesn't have a permanent injury and you still have breast milk in the freezer and your scale is moving in the right direction, I'd call that a victory parade. I would, you know? And honestly, that's enough for me this week. I'm happy with it. From a backyard burn pit in Ohio to a haunted dorm room in upstate New York, today's stories have had one thing in common: what we leave behind. In the first case, it was a mother whose life was taken and hidden away, burned, buried, erased. Except it wasn't, because the truth always finds a way to the surface, even when someone thinks they've destroyed all the evidence. And in the second, a ghost who refused to be forgotten, a centuries old echo of violence still begging to be seen and to be understood and maybe even forgiven at that point. I don't know. It's just like wild how both stories like blur the line between like physical and the spiritual. Like one is dealing with what happens when a body is gone, and the other when a soul can't move on. One family haunted by guilt, and another literally haunted by a soldier with unfinished business. Honestly, maybe that's why ghosts exist, because people can't handle their group projects in the afterlife either. I don't know. But like, jokes aside, both stories remind us that closure isn't something we find, it's something like we create, I guess, in a sense. Because whether it's solving a murder or facing a haunting or literally like letting go of the things that scare us most, maybe the dead won't haunt us out of malice, but out of a desperate need to be acknowledged, to have their story told, to matter one last time. So, whether it's restless spirit or the justice system finally catching up, sometimes the only way to quiet a ghost is to listen to them. And on that deep, spooky note, I will be sleeping with a nightlight and maybe have a priest on speed dial. As always, thanks for listening. I'm Monica, and this has been Mostly Accurate. If you like what you hear, please click subscribe. Please leave a comment. Let's have a conversation. Instagram at Mostly Accurate Podcast, YouTube at Mostly Accurate Podcast, Facebook at Mostly Accurate Podcast, and you can listen to audio wherever you stream your podcasts. I will see you guys next week. I can't wait. Okay, love you. Bye. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The facts are fuzzy. Our stories and opinions are just that, stories and opinions, not meant to be taken as professional advice.